What is going on, you plebs and peasants? Escape back here today. Another video. It's Monday. You guys voted for fundamental concepts, so this is going to be another fundamental concepts video. Let's hop right into it. So today's video is going to be about knowing the decks, the different decks in Hearthstone, knowing your deck, your opponent's deck, win conditions, how the deck is intended to be played, etc. So let's hop right into it. And you want to know your win condition. When you know your win condition, you know what your cards are meant to do, and you can essentially get more value out of them. Next, you want to know your deck's playstyle. Obviously, many different decks have different playstyles, so here's a list. Aggro decks tend to want to go face. They have spells that can help them finish games quite quickly. You have mid-range decks that can utilize mana turns 5 through 8 pretty efficiently the mid-game. You have tempo decks that tend to want to set your opponent back and make them play from behind while they dictate the tempo of the game. You have control decks that usually want to drag the game out so they can beat you down with their huge beat sticks, or yeah. And then there's miscellaneous, so there's stuff like OTK decks, fatigue decks, and decks like freeze mage, like burn decks. And control, I guess you could say freeze mage can go under control because it does carry the game out to the late game where it can then burst down its opponent. And that's basically what you need to know for the general stuff. I'm going to hop into the meta decks right now in the game and give you guys a good idea of how they're intended to be played, their win conditions, and what you need to look out for when playing against them. So we're going to hop straight into Warlock. So Warlock has two decks, Zoo and Reno. Zoolock is usually misconceived as an aggro deck. It is not an aggro deck. Most players should start playing the game on Zoo because it's good in all aspects of the game. It uses minions with special abilities and buffs like from Abusive Sergeant, Direwolf Alpha, Power Overwhelming to trade efficiently, and snowball that into the late game where it can play stuff like Leroy Jenkins, Doomguard, etc. win the game. And Reno Lock essentially also, Reno Lock tries to drag the game out of the late game where it will beat you down with stuff like Cairn, Sylvanas, Enzoth, Rag, Draxus, etc., stuff like that, and it attempts to carry itself out to the late game with cards like Earth and Farseer, Refreshment Vendor, Reno Jackson, and it also has board clears like Hellfire, Demon Fire, Shadow Flame, and Twisting Nether. And what you need to look out for when playing against these decks, Zoo first of all, is you need to watch out for the Leroy or the Doomguard play. They can burst for anywhere between, I want to say, 10 to 15 damage in one turn, so you want to watch out for that. And Reno, you typically want to just kill them, but you also want to somehow play around the Hellfire, the Demon Fire, Shadow Flame, stuff like that. And yeah, but you still want to go face against Reno because if they drop Reno or Jackson, lots of decks can't deal with the 60 damage. So yeah. Alright, next we got Shaman. So aggro Shaman, it basically is intended to go face. It is a face deck, and it can end the game with stuff like Lava Burst, Lightning Bolts, Doomhammer with the Rockbiter combo. And it can usually deal anywhere between, let's say, 10 to 20 damage potentially in one turn. So you need to watch out for that. Yeah. When you're also playing, let's go on to mid-range. Mid-range Shaman is basically, it utilizes its totems really efficiently. So with cards like Thunderbuff Valiant and Flame Tongue Totem, it can trade efficiently with its totems and get a really good card advantage over you. So yeah. Control Shaman is basically, yeah, it basically wants to control the early game with cards like Elemental Destruction, Lightning Storm, clear the board, play cards like Earth Elemental, Bog, Creeper, and basically hit you with the beat sticks. So basically against this deck you want to finish the game early, because late game it's really hard to beat it. Yeah. So when you're playing against these decks, know that Aggro Shaman does not play Lightning Storm. So you do not have to worry about getting Lightning Storm against an Aggro Shaman. And Aggro Shaman decks typically are the ones that play Doomhammer, and they don't play Hexes. Whereas Midrange Shaman and Control Shaman do play Hexes and Lightning Storms, but they do not play Doomhammers. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, when you're playing against an Aggro Shaman deck and a Control, know that they have, well, typically Aggro, know that they have the 7/7 Faceless for 4 mana, so you want to keep your stuff like Execute, Mulches for that card. And yeah, that's basically what you want to know for Shaman. Next we got Warrior, which is, oh my god, Warrior, the king of I don't know how many seasons, but so Dragon Warrior is pretty aggro orientated. It basically tends to take control of the game using its really efficient cards like Straza Champ, 3/3 for 2 mana is insane. Fiery War Axe, Blackwing Corruptor, but it's also really aggressive, so it can end the game with stuff like Corcoran, Alexstrasza Champ, Gramash, etc. Tempo basically is just, it wants to set your opponent back, make them play from behind, and then it can finish the game off with something like Gramash. So, Cthulhu Warrior is, it basically, well, it's Cthulhu Warrior, so its win condition is usually Cthulhu, so you want to watch out for that. It will tend to drag the game out with stuff like Emperor Veclor, Shield Bearer, those cards. And then Control Warrior, same thing. It tends to drag the game out to where it can drop stuff like Cairn, Sylvanas, Ragnaros, Gramash, Enzoth, and just beat you down. Worgen OTK, on the other hand, is a deck where it also tries to carry it on to the late game, but it's an OTK deck, so it tries to kill you in 1 turn. So you need to watch out for that. You usually want to beat the deck before turns 8 or 9, unless you're Cthulhu or Control Warrior, where you can armor up to the point where their combo isn't even going to kill you. But besides that, you want to go really aggressive against Worgen OTK, because the point of their deck is to kill you in 1 turn, which usually happens around turns 8 through 10, so, or 9 and 10, and yeah. So what you really want to look out for when playing against these decks is Dragon Warrior, Tempo Warrior, and Cthulhu Warrior do not play Brawl. Cthulhu and Control Warrior are the only decks to play Brawl for Warrior. Dragon, Tempo, and Worgen OTK do not, so feel free to spam the board. Worgen OTK, beware about that Pyromancer stuff, because they can still clear the board with that. Commanding Shout and that stuff. So, yeah. Also, Worgen OTK tries to cycle with Acolyte of Pain and Battle Rage. Forgot to mention that. But, yeah. Next archetype, we got Hunter. So, Hunter's deck right now is basically mid-range. Like, they also have, like, this hybrid version, but it's essentially the same thing. The whole jazz of the thing is they basically want to take control of their mana turns 5 through 8. They can play stuff, or they also want to utilize their Houndmasters really efficiently, so watch out for that. Yeah, they want to utilize their Houndmasters efficiently, play their Highmane on turn 6, and basically generate card advantage off the mid game. And then I want to say 30 to 40% of the time their win condition is Call the Wild. Yeah, around like 40% of the time. So watch out for that. You usually want to either develop a board that can withstand against the Call the Wild play on turn 8, or you want to kill them before that. So, but that's usually hard. So, yeah, that's basically it for Hunter. There's Face Hunter isn't that big of a deal right now, and the other like Enzoth variants and stuff aren't really viable either. Okay, Druid. So the point of Token Druid is to utilize Violet Teachers, Onyxio, some of them even Whisper the Old Gods, play like Power of the Wild, Savage Roar, win the game like that. And Cthulhu Warriors is just to put down beat sticks like 410, 4 attack, 10 health cards on the board. They have the turn 6 Arakoa 5/7. So they basically just tend to put Cthulhu cards onto the board, power up their Cthulhu, and the Cthulhu is usually the win rate, not almost like 90% of the time, or 80% of the time the win rate, or the win condition, not bad. So yeah. And when you're playing against these decks, especially something like Token Druid, you want to save your stuff like Ravaging Ghoul, Unleash the Hounds, Fan and Knives, spells and Mage. You want to save them for when they play like something like Onyxia, when they play something like Whisper of the Old Gods, or summon like 4 minions off of Violet Teacher. And Cthulhu Warrior, or Cthulhu Druid, you basically want to, I'm not sure, you just want to beat them before they can drop Cthulhu, however that is in your situation. So that's that. Next up we got Mage. So Tempo Mage basically utilizes Flamewaker, and it tries to keep it alive to the point where it can create so much card advantage to the point where you can't come back. So save your stuff for that Flamewaker, because sometimes they can hide it behind a mirror images, stuff like that, so watch out for that. And then Freeze Mage is basically a burn deck. They try to carry out the game to turn 9 and 10, where they play Alexstrasza on your hero, and then they burn you down the following turn with spells like Fireball, Frostbolt, Ice Lances, etc. So watch out for that. And when you are playing against Tempo Mage, you generally want to save something for the Flamewaker so you can instantly kill it. Something like Kill Command if you're playing Hunter, or like a, I don't know, like a Hexer or something like that. You also want to watch out for the turn 7 Flame Strike. And when you're playing against Freeze Mage, you also want to watch out for the Flame Strike on turn 7. But you also want to watch out on turn 5 for the Frost Nova Doomsayer combo, and the turn 6 Blizzard. That's basically all you need to look out for. So that. And then next we got Priest, Paladin, and Rogue. So Priest's win condition is basically the same for both of the decks. Just get past turn 6 and you're set. That's Priest's biggest problem. It's just going to carry it onto the late game and essentially try to win with stuff like Enzoth, Sylvanas, Cairn, and use Entomb on your minions, and Shadow Death, stuff like that. And when you're playing against Priest, you want to look out for stuff like on turn 4, you want to watch out for Akanai Soul Priest, turn 5 with Healing Wave, and then turn 5 you want to watch out for Excavated Evil and Holy Nova. That's basically what you want to know. And some you can, I guess if you have like never mind. Alright, Paladin. So Paladin, you have Divine Pally. It basically wants to generate value using its Divine Shields, carry it on to the late game where you can drop stuff like Teorian and basically win the game from there. When you're playing against Enzoth Pally, it generally wants to control the early game and then just not control the early game, get past the early game into the late game, drop stuff like Cairn, Sylvanas, the Healing Ragnaros, Teorian, Enzoth, and just win the game from there. So I think I just said a voice correct, but alright. When you're playing against Pally, when you're playing against Divine Pally, you just have to worry about the Consecration and Blessing of the King, stuff like that. When you're playing against Enzoth, you want to watch out for the Consecration along with the Equality Pyromancer play. I don't believe Divine Pally plays that, so that's the advantage you have if you're going up against Divine Pally. But yeah, that's basically what you want to watch out for Paladin. And save your stuff like Hexes, Deadly Shots for the Teorian. Big thing. Next thing, Rogue. Rogue is Miracle Rogue tends to use Gadget Stand Auctioneer to cycle through, get stuff like Leroy, Cold-Bloodeds, Eviscerates, and burst you from there or slowly kill you over time. That's basically it. Back in the day, they used like Shadow Step, and they could almost OTK you, and it was pretty crazy. So that's that. But now it's different. And then Enzoth Rogue is basically, I think there's actually the variant right now is they're also playing Cthulhu in it with Reno, so kind of a mismatch. I don't know. I haven't played against that deck that much, but it's up in the air. You basically just want to kill them before they can drop Cthulhu, Reno, and Enzoth on you, because lots of decks can't deal with that. And when you're playing against Rogue, there's not that much to look out for, except for watch out for. I mean, there's not that much to watch out for, but you can still look out for the Leroy, cold-blooded plays with the Eviscerate. They can deal anywhere between, like, I want to say 10 to 20 damage in one turn, so be aware of that. And against Enzoth, just be aware of stuff like their Cthulhu counter, like Enzoth, stuff like that. So, yeah, that's that. And I believe that's the last. Yeah, those are the last 3 decks. Alright, so hope you guys enjoyed the video. As you know, the meta is going to change, so always be aware, learn about the decks, look up deck lists online, see what people are playing, so you can get a general idea of what you're going to be up against when you play against those decks online. And yeah, that's just going to help you on like what decisions to make and etc. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope you guys learned something. If you like the video, drop a like, comment, and subscribe potentially if you want to look for my future content. And that should be it. You can also check out my YouTube or my Twitter and Twitch if you want to keep up with my streams and stuff like that. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video and you learned something, and peace.